Good morning, everyone. My name is Cameron Rose, and I've been your worship associate for this month. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Oak Cliff. For those joining us for the first time, welcome again. We know it can be scary coming to a new place. We appreciate your presence, and thank you for placing your trust in us today. If you're a returning visitor, welcome back, and thank you for continuing to be a part of this lovely community. Each Sunday, we gather here to build connection, strengthen ourselves, and make our world a better place for all. As Unitarian Universalists, we serve and welcome everyone. It does not matter your background, orientation, identity, income, affiliation, or belief. What does matter is that here you belong. Tomorrow starts the beginning of Pride Month. Woo! And I'm excited to experience an extended moment of celebration and joy with the new group you all hear today that have quickly come to love. But with celebration comes responsibility. Responsibility we have to continue standing up for what is right and true. The responsibility to fight for each other and ourselves. The responsibility of making sure that those who come after us have more than those of us who are here now. Those within the LGBTQ plus community have known struggle for as long as we have existed. As a person at many points of intersectionality, I have felt firsthand how much it takes to speak up and use my voice for the betterment of others who are voiceless, as I'm sure many of you have as well. So, we come together to not only speak on the history of a tradition long used in the battle against injustice, but to take part in said tradition ourselves and write our own chapter so that others may use it as reference. Before I end today's call to worship, I would like to read some words by Tania Y. Marquez. Ryan, please join me. Witnesses of the world.
Testigos del mundo.
It is now when we are called as witnesses of the world.
Es hora que estamos llamados a ser testigos del mundo.
To mend it, to change its course, to restore it.
A enmendarlo, a cambiar su curso y a restaurarlo.
It is now when we are called to act on our values.
Es hora que estamos llamados a vivir nuestros valores.
Not to hide, not to fear, but to be bold and loud.
A no escondernos, a no temer sino ser audaces y a ser rudo.
It is now that we are called to continue our fight for justice.
Es hora que estamos llamados a continuar nuestra lucha por la justicia.
To organize, to speak up.
Organizamos y levantar los voces.
It is now.
Es hora.
Let us gather. Let us give each other courage.
Reunamos, demos valor a unos a otros.
Let us worship.
Celebremos.
Thank you. We light this chalice today as a people dedicated to personal growth. May it burn away the oppressions we have been taught and glow instead with the humility of learning. May it reignite our dreams for a better world and kindle our joy for simple living. May its warmth extend out into the forgotten alleyways of exclusion and bring us home to love, to welcoming, and to all the challenges, the questions, and the blessings of this beautiful path to becoming a beloved community. Today's opening words come from writer, sociologist, and civil rights activist W.E.B. Du Bois. Now is the accepted time, not tomorrow, not some more convenient season. It is today that our best work can be done, and not some future day or future year. It is today that we fit ourselves for the greater usefulness of tomorrow. Today is the seed time. Now are the hours of work, and tomorrow comes the harvest and the playtime. And now for our sermon.
I wanted to begin today with some buttons. We have made quite a few of them over the years. And the reason I wanted to start with a button was because it is not a monument. It's not a law. It's not a grand policy or political platform. Although we will get there. Don't worry. It's something small. It's round sometimes, most of the time. Little pokey. Can fit into a jacket, a stole, pins to a backpack. Easy to underestimate. Easy to overlook. Easy to lose in the back of a drawer. And easy to dismiss as just a bit of decoration. So, why then have there been entire museum exhibits dedicated to our humble badge? Last year, I was fortunate enough to see the Badge of Pride exhibit at the Irving Archives and Museum. I expected to see some meaningful history. I did not expect how lovingly curated or how deep that history would go. As an occasional student of history and a member of the community, I thought I knew most of the history. And yet, as I stood there in front of pieces of the AIDS quilt, holding back tears, all through the gallery, seeing hundreds upon hundreds of lives, people's lives, now living only glass, under glass. Because, you see, when you look carefully at the history of the LGBTQI plus, many more, badges and buttons, it's not a means of decoration. You see evidence of community, of risk, humor, grief, defiance, survival, and so much love. People trying to survive across decades and across very different circumstances to find one another in a larger world that often didn't care if they lived, much less if they found themselves or each other. Some of those badges were loud, bright, colorful, clear words designed to be seen across a room, across a street, across a crowd. Others were more subtle, even coded. A symbol that only certain people would recognize, a Greek letter, a particular color combination, a spider web of interconnected rainbow belonging. Some of those badges, others, said things that were different. They screamed, "Look at me!" Others whispered, "You are safe here." They were personal flags. They were sultry whispers, terrible jokes, dares, signal flares. And I'm sure you could do an entire service on just the hanky code. But that is a different story. But I wanted to go back particularly to visibility, because visibility is not simply one thing. Visibility depends on who you are, where you are, what kind of risks you care about, who is watching, who is hiring, who is policing, who is family, who is safe, and who is not. Visibility has never been equally available to everyone. Some people could afford to be loud. Some people had to survive by being eligible only to those who needed to know. And some would go their whole lives hiding who they truly were. Some of these badges were produced by organizations, campaigns with names, letterheads, budgets, and printing contracts, but most of them, many more of them, were handmade. Handmade because there were so many companies unwilling to print such dangerous words. They were made in small, queer-owned shops. They were made knowing the risk of being associated with certain slogans was too much for some to bear. But the community could not wait for institutional permission to make itself visible. And in those handmade buttons, made in kitchen tables and small print shops, by communities that came together to address the right to live and love and to exist in the face of struggle and death. For them, when official channels were too slow, too scared, too expensive, too hostile, or simply not interested, they made their own. Buttons, badges, patches, hand-lettered signs, zines, quilts, banners, stickers, t-shirts, flyers. There's a reason Gil Scott-Heron said the revolution would not be televised. It would be made by actions and by little things made on folding tables and in club basements, born of community centers because something needed to be said when no one else was going to say it for them. We've seen this pattern before. Minorities, queer communities, people with disabilities. All the stripes of people the dominant socioeconomic establishment have pushed to the margins. For profit or just the delight of damaging anything different, again and again, we have had to make our own tools for visibility, for advocacy, for empowerment to survive. It's why there are 1.2 million square feet of the AIDS memorial quilt today. The quilt began because people were dying and the world was intentionally looking away, or worse, cheering on in glee. It began because names were being erased. And so if the newspapers would not tell the story, they would sew it. If the government would not grieve, they would take their grief to the public. If families were ashamed, if churches were silent, if every institution pretended that those lives did not matter, then they would do something so large, so beautiful, and so impossible to ignore, the world would have to look. And no, what we're going to be doing after today's service is not the AIDS quilt. It is not the same scale, it is not the same grief, but it is a continuation of that history. It is part of that same lineage of people making something visible because visibility matters. The story of people refusing to wait for permission. The legacy of people, just people saying, I may not be able to change everything today, but I can make this. I can make this. I can give you this. I can wear this. I can hand this to somebody and say, I thought of you. Now, tomorrow begins Pride Month. Break for applause. And I want you to think about what kind of pride we are preparing to enter. Because pride is joy. Pride is color and music and chosen family and holy mischief refusing to be erased, even if they take away the sidewalks. Pride is memory. Pride is protest. Pride is the long, complicated, ongoing question of who gets to participate and how and at what cost. Who gets left on the edge of the celebration? That was supposed to be for them. So, while today's service is not quite a full celebration of Pride, we will be preparing for the month ahead. Last year, when Ryan reflected on Pride badges from this pulpit, the sermon moved from tolerance to acceptance to advocacy. And I wanted to pick up from there because I think of advocacy as incredibly important, but it is not the final destination. I think about what the next step would be, and that step is access. Here is the difference. Advocacy is something that we do. Advocacy says your dignity matters, and I am willing to defend it. I will speak, I will act, I will show up, I will make your cause visible. And that is completely necessary in both big gestures and small moments. And I would argue it is at the core of our faith tradition. But advocacy can still position this as something that one is doing for someone else. Access asks a different question. Accessibility, asks, is this something for you? Something that you can fully participate and be part of? Advocacy says you are welcome here. Access asks, is there somewhere to sit? Advocacy says your voice matters. Access asks, can you be heard in this space? Advocacy says, we will stand beside you. Access asks, can I get in? That is sometimes an uncomfortable question because it shifts the responsibility. It is possible, and this is the hard part for us, to be welcoming, to be completely genuine, and to still be unreachable. It is possible to mean every word of you are all welcome and still have a building, communication, social expectation, and a culture of unspoken rules that quietly says something else. It's not out of cruelty, not necessarily because anyone one day decided to intentionally exclude someone, but simply because exclusion survives on habit, on assumption, on the no one has ever complained before. Sometimes it survives because the people most affected are exhausted from explaining what should have been able to be included from the beginning. And this is where pride and accessibility belong in the same conversation. Yes, I know, intersectionality, stay with me. Yes, of course, because LGBTQ plus people are all sorts of people, and disabled people are all sorts of people. Neither group is a monolith, nor are they wholly separate populations. They overlap, they twist, they have concerns that overlap other concerns. They are also the same people, many of them navigating the multi-layers of the world not built for them in mind, in multiple minds. Queer people with mobility needs, trans people with chronic illnesses, non-binary people with sensory processing differences, gay elders whose bodies have changed with the inexorable passage of time, neurodivergent people of all stripe who love the community but can't always tolerate the noise, the crowds, the pace, or many of those unspoken rules. End up excluding people from the spaces built to celebrate them. People with disabilities that are visible and invisible, all sorts of people who have spent their entire lives having to prove both who they are and what they need to their families, to their doctors, to their churches. The list goes on and on and on. And so, when we say pride is for everyone, that cannot mean only everyone who can stand for 3 hours on the side of a parade. It cannot mean only for everyone who can handle the crowds, the fine print, the climbing the stairs, the incredible noise. If pride is only reaching the people who can already reach it, it's not yet fully pride. So, we're not fixing all of the accessibility issues in our entire society. But as a church that welcomes people who can already navigate it, how are we welcoming the people who aren't so fortunate to work within our expectations? So what does that mean for us here at UUCOC? Not a shame exercise. Shame is not useful here. Shame makes us defensive. Shame makes us perform rather than practice, and is by definition the antithesis of pride. No, my question, and the questions that will be brought forth in the future ahead, are instead a faithful inquiry into what we know, what we do not know, and perhaps what we have been too comfortable in not knowing. Who is comfortable here? Who is almost comfortable here, but has quietly adapted themselves to fit in for the sake of having community? Who has stopped coming, and why? Who never came in the first place? Not because they didn't want to, but because maybe there wasn't something that allowed there to actually be a path. Where does our welcoming work? Where does it stop working? Where have we confused being friendly with being accessible? Where have we confused good intentions with effective impact? And where have we assumed that we would help if someone asked is the same as having made help easy to ask for? But these are not questions I am going to answer this morning. They are questions that I hope you mull over and carry with you into our Pride Month of June. Because our covenant does not say we have already arrived. It says that we are connecting with each other in love, respect, and acceptance. This is a process. These are practices we have to return to again and again. They have to be tested against real lives, real bodies with real needs, including needs we may not have thought about. And our tradition is honest enough to admit that we don't always get it right. I do appreciate that. The UU tradition itself acknowledges this honestly. Congregations calcify from the Welcoming Congregations guides. Welcome can be something that we declare once and frame on a wall. The work is renewed, but an administration of failure and its continuing. It has to be continued, to still grow, to still be willing to be transformed. The question is not whether we have arrived, it is whether we are willing to still move forward. And that is why I do not want us to leave this as only an idea. Because ideas are comfortable, especially for us. We like ideas. They can be exciting, transformative. They can also be safely kept abstract from reality. We can nod along to the ephemeral access matters, and welcome should be reachable, and we can still go home unchanged, unaffected, and unbothered. Unless we turn that idea into practice, into making something that is more welcoming, more visible, more tangible, and reflective of our shared community. Which brings me back to the buttons. So, where we started today, starting with something small, yet meaningful, something that we can take away, give away, and practice. So after today's service, we are going to get to sit down and make some buttons together. Not because buttons are the answer to all of those questions, but because they are a small way to start practicing them, to open up some conversations, and to make connections. They ask us to move from thought into action, from intention into object, from a welcome that feels welcoming to us, to something that we can see, receive, wear, and carry forward and share. That is why this matters. At least to me, and I hope to some of you. It is us stepping into the history that can be traced all the way back to the beginning, from those handmade badges pressed in basements because no company would dare print such scandalous words, to the tens of thousands of panels in the AIDS quilt sewn by hand, a bereaved scream refusing to be silenced, to a small wheelchair rendered in rainbow colors on a badge at the museum. A collection quietly saying, I am here too. And so, friends, that is why I am genuinely excited for us to press buttons together and talk about it. Not because buttons are magic, but because not because buttons solve all accessibility, homophobia, transphobia, or loneliness and fear. They don't. But because a button is a small beginning that can have a lasting effect. And if, at least for me, I think that is pretty neat. Also, I just have to nerd out about the process for a second, because you have this lovely little machine. You cut out and choose the picture. You line it up. You place the metal, press it down, and there's this little act of pressure, mechanical deformation, and this little transformation, and suddenly all the different parts become something new. Oh, come on, that's almost too good a metaphor to pass up. So, you take color, a message, an intention, and put some weight behind it We press it together, and something comes out that can travel farther than the table it was made. Some wear them to pride, some can be pinned to a bag, some will be given to friends, some will be funny, some will be angry, ones that are beautiful, gentle, and ones that say exactly what is needed for someone to say at first. And I'm sure some will be lost at the back of a drawer. And maybe someone will see it later and breathe a little easier. Maybe someone will laugh. Maybe someone will ask a question. Maybe someone will know in a small but real way that I am not alone here. It's not everything, but it's not nothing. And today, not nothing is a pretty good place to start. So, after the service, I want to invite everyone to come and make buttons with us. You can make one that's beautiful, one that's loud, one that's weird, ones that are very earnest and heartfelt, and ones that you might have to ask what that means. Come make one that makes your younger self feel a little safer or a little challenged. Come make one for someone you love. Come make one for someone you've never met and maybe never will meet. Come make one that says you are welcome here, and then let that button ask whether our welcome is actually reachable. And if you do not want to make one, come sit with us. Watch, talk, help someone pick colors, hand someone a blank circle, laugh at the terrible first attempts. You are still welcome. Because the button is not the whole practice. Making something new is the practice. If someone leaves today with a button in hand, I hope they leave with a question in their heart. Not a question meant to paralyze, but a question meant to open. How does love become reachable? How does welcome become visible? How does advocacy become access? How do we build a church where fewer people have to wonder if there is room for them here, and fewer people have to fight to get in, to find out? Tomorrow begins Pride Month. Today, we begin with the buttons. Small things, bright things, handmade things. In the tradition of every community that has ever picked up something small and made it speak for them. We are not finished. We're not even close to finished. But we are making, we are asking better questions. And we begin with something small enough to hold and large enough to ask something of us. And make sure that the pen is facing the right way. Thank you.
Our closing words today come from Reverend Erica Hewitt. To be a Unitarian Universalist means we'll never be done with the work of telling the truth about oppression, the work of resisting any laws, policies, or practices that deny anyone their humanity, the work of stubbornly seeking out the spark of the divine within each other, no matter what. The work of creating heaven on earth. To be a Unitarian Universalist also means we're not alone in the work. We are not alone because of our promises to love one another. We are not alone because we are companions on the journey. We grow ourselves into allies, helping one another get free. Because none of us are truly free until we are all free. It is now time to extinguish our chalice. Let us be reminded that those who seek solace and comfort in community shall receive it in some of the most unexpected of moments, whether up close or over vast distances. Let us be reminded that those who seek to oppose the unstoppable winds of change will be pushed to the sidelines of history, forgotten when all is said and done. And let us be reminded that although we may feel that our work is done in vain, time and time again, we still decide to push on. with determination, strength, and love coursing through our souls. Because the work has to be done, and we shall be the ones to do it.